Uh, Hi, I'm Joe Bernick, and for the last decade or so, I've been director of Salt of the Earth Labor College in Tucson, here in Tucson, and um, Salt of the Earth Labor College is a school, a worker school, but it's also a special place, community space it's a school, but it's also a space. It's a place. It's a venue. It's a place events are held. Now, when we inherited the building, uh, we had to make a decision whether we wanted to have a communist school, Marxist school, or more of a worker school, kind of generally for the people's movements. And we had to make that kind of a decision. And we thought about it, and we thought we decided that having a worker school would be a better use of the resource of the building. We'd have more participation. We could play a bigger role in the community. So we initiated the worker school. We started our first class, our first presentation in the fall of '93. The real inspiration behind doing a school was besides the folks that gave us this building was Lorenzo Torres. Lorenzo, who was leader of the Communist Party in Arizona for quite a few years, and a former copper miner himself, felt that there's a real need to do more education for working people, because the labor unions do no longer provide much education for rank and file members. There's not a lot of education that's provided to workers in their unions, and most workers are not in unions, so they don't even have the little that the unions have to offer. So the idea of having a community school that would teach the history of working people and how to struggle and have a lot of discussions about what to do was very important. Lorenzo had this vision that it could be done. Some of us communists had tried before to do regular discussions, regular learning experiences, like once a month, and it always kind of fell through because it's kind of complicated when you have to rent a building and rent a place or sign up for a place and get a room and publicize and get a speaker, and there's something about having one's own space, one's own building that you own, that makes it a lot simpler to do something regularly. It gives you that impetus, and so we started with that. We started small. We started in one room. Okay, it's interesting because the relationship between Salt Earth Labor College and the Communist Party, in a way, it goes way back to the Empire Zinc strike itself. It goes back to the movie, to the Salt Earth movie, and it goes back to those days because the union, the Mine Mill and Smelter Workers Union, was a left-wing, one of the left-wing unions, was one of the 9 unions that was expelled that left the CIO, that had a lot of, because they refused to get rid of their communists in leadership. There were many communist party members that played leading roles in Mine Mill, and the Communist Party was active in the mining communities all across Arizona and New Mexico. That many of the towns had Communist Party clubs, and it was an active organization during the strike. It participated. It gave some direction. I wasn't around myself to remember or know, but from what Lorenzo Torres told me, the club played a role, and the leadership they gave in the strike and in that struggle played a role in winning that battle, and it influenced him to join the Communist Party, him and Anita, Also, the Communist Party was able to help the struggle in a lot of ways because being a nationwide organization, it could whip up a lot of support across the country and the world, and help with solidarity and support for the people in strike. So the Communist Party was always part of they're an important part of the school we have today, just as they were important back in the days of the Empire Strike and in making the movie. And I know one of the incidents that they told me about is when filmmakers came from Los Angeles with the script for making Salt of Earth, the movie. They had this script where the white union organizers come and save these poor Mexicans kind of script, and the miners said, no, that's not what happened. We did it. And they had to take it back, and they rewrote it. And the Communist Party played a role in these kinds of things. That's where the conscience was, and those kinds of that's where the Communist Party was important. So I think that the Salt Earth Labor College has had, over the last 20 years, has had an impact on the community here. In various ways. And one way is that we helped. We had a guest from Chicago that talked about Coalition for Labor Union Women, and it resulted in the formation of a chapter of Coalition for Labor Union Women for a few years here in Tucson. It's no longer here, but it lasted for a few years. The same thing with the Black Trade Unionists, Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. We've had an impact. We had a presentation, a lecture, a presentation from a man from Unite Here, an organizer, about how to organize new unions and stuff, and it resulted in some people who came, and one of the women who came, a nurse, it ended up from there going on to form a organizing committee for staff nurses, and it resulted in a group that affiliated with National Nurses United today. So the impact is sometimes long term. Sometimes things start here and then they crop up. The impact, you might not see it right away, is what I'm trying to say. You might see the impact a little later. I think we've had a lot of people that have come to our classes for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and then they go on to be activists and have quite an impact. Our favorite graduate is Lois Putsier, who went on to volunteer as a labor organizer and a protester at Fort Benning and served 6 months civil disobedience term in prison. So she's our favorite. She became a great activist at a later age. But I think we've had a lot of impact on people of all ages that have come around and studied with us and learned with us and went on to do great things here in Tucson and elsewhere.